California. Oh, California. Your majestic mountain ranges. Inspiring and bright young individuals. The most breathtaking sunsets. And your beautiful and everlasting bodies of water. But you're not that perfect after all.
Stop right there.
Run.
Okay, so why does this fool be caught have anything to do with the book? Well, it all ties back to the history between the Americans and the Japanese. The attack at the Pearl Harbor Navy base in Hawaii sparked U.S. involvement in World War II conflict. As a result, many Americans became xenophobic towards Japanese Americans. Racism increased in schools, neighborhoods, and shopping centers. But how did Americans justify their decision to intern the Japanese? Well, Americans had claimed that because they were at war with the Japanese, a sea-land invasion was very possible, and they could not afford inside help from the current Japanese living in the country. In the novel, the father was accused and eventually admitted to being a Japanese spy, which is why he was absent for a majority of the novel and was not with the normal group. In addition, many had claimed that Japanese spies were virtually ubiquitous. It was nearly impossible to differentiate between innocents and spies. In the spring of 1942, Japanese Americans were notified by flyers that they were to drop everything and leave their homes to be transferred to an unknown location. This is connected to the mother in the novel, who is the first to read the notice and returns home to pack for her and her kids. They were given little to no information, boarded onto trains, and transported to internment camps indefinitely. The author, Julia Tsuka, really captures her very own historical and personal experiences and shapes it into a well-crafted novel. Pay attention to the pictorial representation of the story. It may come in handy later. In the spring of 1942, an unnamed Japanese woman and her children are faced with Evacuation Order Number 19, stating that all people of Japanese descent will be forcibly evacuated in the following weeks. Prior to the incident, her husband had been detained under the suspicion that he was actually a spy for the Japanese Empire, leaving a woman and her children with little hope for the future. The mother kills their white dog without telling the two children, representing a blind trust and obedience in the American government. The children can only sit hopelessly on their packed luggage.
I can see it in your eyes, 'cause they never tell me lies. I can feel that body shake.
Complying to the demands of government officials, the small family ends up traveling through Nevada to an eventual destination of a relocation camp in Utah on a train. Throughout their journey, they face numerous incidents of discrimination and racism. While traveling, they are warned to make sure their shades are closed, seeing as passing towns throw rocks towards the Japanese. However, they also see snippets of freedom through wild mustangs traveling across the desert, representing a major symbolic component of the novel, freedom. At this point, the little girl gets a glimpse at the white mustangs before the soldiers instruct her to close the white blinds. Horses run free, and they can only have a small glimpse of it through the glass window before being blocked out.
You are not the single type, so baby, this the perfect time.
Eventually, they are escorted by soldiers to Camp Topaz filled with barracks and surrounded by wire fences. At first, all the faces seem to resemble the children's father, and the kids face flashbacks of the times they were forced to hide their Japanese heritage, demonstrating the assimilation of Japanese into the American culture. Time flashes forward into the winter, where the family is slowly being torn apart by the rebellious young girl and a curious boy. Then, the following spring, a Japanese man was shot for trying to reach a flower due to the soldiers' impression that he was trying to escape. The American soldiers symbolized their imprisonment and wrongful eviction out of their homes. Desperately, the children hope to see their father again throughout the time in the camps, hoping for support, love, and affection.
I feel it coming. I feel it coming, baby. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, baby. I feel it coming. I feel it coming, baby.
Eventually, they are released only to return to a ransacked house and a community that shuns them because of their prejudice and heritage. The children are forced to be submissive in the classrooms and amongst other people to avoid trouble, while their mother is unable to find work because no one wants to employ a Japanese woman. Later, on in their lives, a telegram arrives bearing news of their father's return. He is withdrawn, quiet, and nothing like they remembered. Mostly, they realize that the rosebush has been stolen and that their neighbors' rosebushes continue to grow. Marking the rosebush was used to represent freedom that was stolen from the Japanese during World War II. It can also symbolize depriving the citizens of their rights.
When you're alone with me, I feel it coming. I feel it coming, baby.
The warm, affectionate man disappears overpowered by a man bitter from torture. The final chapter tells a story in which he sarcastically says that all the rumors and racist remarks about him were true. He was indeed a spy. He despised Americans greatly and attempted to place bombs near American naval bases. He even hated his own neighbors. Ultimately, he ends the story with the quote, "There, that's it, I've said it. Now can I go?"